What's up, Chris? It's Friday.
What what's going on, Jay?
How you
Wait,
doing?
Friday? Is it Friday? It might be
Well, it will
Friday if you're
be.
watching.
It will be when this is
Yeah,
is, is on YouTube, so we're good.
that's right. So you'll think it's Friday, but we'll know that it's actually Thursday.
Yeah, I'm going to be
Well,
out of town, so little shiftaroo there. To jump in here and reschedule this. So thank you for your flexibility, Chris.
hey, of course. Yeah. Welcome everyone to On the Rocks, our ecom hour, the show where we talk about e-commerce and e-commerce adjacent information, specifically related to technology and tips to run your e-commerce business. I am Chris Gino. He is Jay Kimmelman, and we're here to host the show for you. Last week, we highlighted some last minute pieces of advice before the holidays come. We talked about SEO management and inventory management and spend management, and the importance of having all of those things planned and well thought through as you head into the holiday season.
And
This
it all
week,
still applies this week. Don't forget what we
that's
did
true.
last week.
This,
Just keep
this
doing it.
week, go back and watch that episode because it's still applicable, right? Absolutely. But this week you may have also heard it was in the news. I think there was an election that will
Yeah.
change the party that's in power, right? Which means that with that in mind, there's a few things that you probably want to be thinking about or be aware of as we head into the next year outside of the holiday season or in the next 4 years. So the things we want to highlight for you, right? We want to talk a little bit about taxes. We want to talk about tariffs and what that means for you. We'll talk about some other things and whether there are some other impacts from this transition, and specifically how it should impact the e-commerce businesses. We'll also talk through some strategies or other plans that you may consider putting together before year end because of this new administration. That kind of will all go hand in hand. We'll see how it goes. It may be a free flowing conversation about who knows what as it comes to tax policy, tariff policy. Who knows?
Well,
But
if you've been watching us for the last 11 months, you know we've been teeing this conversation up for 11 months because there's
that's right.
been tax policy in the Senate that hasn't been voted on, and we've been waiting for this. And now we have some ideas, and we'll talk that through, but we don't know specifically what to expect yet. But we're gonna got some ideas.
Yep, we're gonna do our best, especially with what's come out and what people have talked about and what people are talking about in the streets as we listen to what other people are saying as well. So before we do that, let's get to the other news. Maybe not quite as impactful, but it's still out there and still worth talking about. In the tech space are the folks at Shopify. They have consolidated all of their financial solutions into one Shopify finance dashboard, which I do think is pretty nice, right? To be able to look at balance and credit and Shopify tax and Shopify bill pay to see all that in one space. Super handy. So be on the lookout for that. That may be live already, so you may already be able to do that. But that's definitely we talk about that a lot of companies trying to make things easier for you, and Shopify is right there doing it as well. So
Now is that Shopify Plus, Shopify Standard? I mean, was there any mention of which platform?
no, the way that I saw it, it was related to Shopify Finance specifically, or
Okay.
the all the financing of operations platform. So I think it
Okay.
may actually not be connected directly to the that side, right? The plus
Right.
side. Like I think it's if you've decided to take on some financing through Shopify or
Right.
to work with them through to do like to carry balances or whatever it
Right.
might be, right?
Yeah.
It's that portion. I did the article that I read did not say whether this was Shopify Plus people only. So that's a good
Gotcha.
question.
Yeah.
Um, in other news, GoDaddy. So you'll remember them. Actually, I'm sure from former NASCAR great Danica Patrick, right? Right,
There
Jay?
you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the 10
Um,
car.
That's right. So
That's
GoDaddy
right.
is adding a website builder AI integration, so some some additional APIs to help to connect to GoDaddy to make supporting website production a lot easier for folks. So if you're in the starting phases of getting your website up and running, or if you use GoDaddy already to host your website, this may be a good tool to help you make it function a little better or do more of what you want it to do. So obviously in the e-commerce space, a lot of that relies on the customer experience within your platform. And so I don't know much about building websites that way, Jay. But this seemed like something that would be useful, especially if you were already hosting on GoDaddy, right? Is that right,
Yeah,
or is
I
that
would
just
think
like
so.
who
Yeah.
cares?
And
Okay.
and they already have like an AI builder called Arrow on the GoDaddy platform, which
Mm,
I'm aware of because they're running commercials during football games and NASCAR races. So I'm
yeah.
aware of that. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, GoDaddy is trying to remain relevant.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, we talked in a previous episode of this show about Rufus, which is Amazon's like selling AI little partner guy. Amazon decided to send old Rufus up to Canada. So if you're in Canada, the shopping AI application Rufus, it's going live in Canada, coming soon. So be on the lookout for that if you're in Canada, and be aware that the AI tools are coming everywhere. Um, they're happening. It's happening. Um, if you are on lots of different social media, and if you rely largely on those types of connections and that ad spend to sell your product, you will be excited to learn, I think, that TikTok is integrating with Venmo. So another way to make your payment structure frictionless. So that's in TikTok Shop. So if you've got a good effective TikTok Shop, you now have another option to allow. Yeah, it's a mouthful, huh?
Well,
Tick.
now I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll talk about that when we get to the after the election. We'll come back to it.
Oh,
I'll
right.
make a note.
Tick,
Yeah,
make a note of TikTok Shop. All right.
TikTok. Yes.
Right. And so again, another thing to help to make that payment process just that much more frictionless. So exciting developments there. Um, Reveal, who I don't know why they're of great quality here. So sorry for not having a good story about Reveal and why their summary of this would matter. But Reveal analyzed the top 100 AI tools, and was analyzing them for usage and traffic to identify them, the most popular, the best ones, that kind of thing. Um, and so, speaking of AI being everywhere, it never really crossed my mind that there'd be hundreds and hundreds of AI tools, but it's not surprising that there's a top 100. Um, but the biggest ones were a whole bunch of things that I had, for the most part, never even heard of, which I'm not going to lie to you, Jay, was really really embarrassing. Um, the most highly utilized AI tool that from this reveal analysis was called Odeo. I actually don't even
Odoo.
know how to say it.
It's
Oh, Udu.
Odoo. Odoo.
Udu.
Actually, it's Odoo. You are right there.
Oh, okay.
Odoo.
It's Udu.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are you familiar with Udu then?
I am. I would not think it was an AI tool because it is a
Uh,
CRM slash ERP slash accounting software. So it probably
right.
has an
Yeah.
AI component to it.
Yeah. And so I don't know exactly where that AI component is. Maybe it's in that
Right.
it's open sourceable, or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
really know. But it made this list. The next one was re. I don't even Replit,
Replit. Yeah.
Replit. Yeah.
I could be wrong,
Uh,
but I've
Seen that one around.
seen it on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Replit actually it's a coding automation tool, which at least from my perspective is probably like one of the very first and most utilized applications of AI. So I'm absolutely not at all surprised to see that this is one of the higher utilized ones, because coding obviously is very historically had been a very manual process. Being able to generate code that allows you to do something faster, better, without bugs, like what a huge time saver that is. So I'm not surprised at all. I had heard of Databricks, which was the third one on this list. That is a data analysis tool, and so lots of folks spending time in data analysis, which is great. Thanks for watching the show, and knowing that data analysis is so critical. The next one I hadn't heard of either. That was Coda. They do collaboration of some sort in AI, and then Gamma, which does presentation AI stuff. So I'd not heard of either of those. But then finally, in the sixth spot was our friends who everybody in the world has heard of at this point in time, and that's ChatGPT. And so the time utilized on these platforms per visit was pretty astounding, really. Udo was 18 minutes per visit, which is pretty wild. ChatGPT was more like 6 or 7, and it was still the sixth most popular. So big shift there from the top to the middle. But I wanted to highlight those products. I wanted to see if you'd ever heard of them, Jay, and at least consider whether there's application. I'm sure there are applications to all of these products to business owners in one way or another. And so particularly if any of that sounds interesting to you, these may be worth exploring. They're clearly very popular. And lastly, this I didn't really feel like was necessarily an e-commerce related tech item, but it was a super interesting thing to me, and it made me think about the applications of something like this across other industries. And that's that AgVend, who I also had never heard of, and Bayer, who's one of the biggest agricultural support providers or whatever. Like they provide fertilizer and all that kind of stuff, right? But they were planning to develop an AI application called FieldView, which was supposed to provide additional info on yield, harvest area, productivity, all the different things that you can care about in your crop. And that is a super, super, super neat sounding tool. I don't do any farming except for like a long time ago. I had this game that we used to play on our PC that was like farm something where you built out your strawberry crops and your rice crops, and you had to like make sure every year you were trying to make as much money as you could to like be super profitable. We always made strawberries because you could get a big growing season and get a bunch of strawberries and then make a bunch of money on strawberries. But it was a fun little game that integrated all that stuff. But this is like the real life version of that, obviously, and this is critical to the overall, like here in the US, of course, it's like the entire food infrastructure rotates around this, right? And so if agriculture and agribusiness are able to do that even more efficiently than they already have, what a great thing that could be for humanity and broadly. But then thinking about like, are there other areas where you'd want like a tool like this? Like think about I don't know, there's some like obvious, like very similar corollaries, right? You could sell this to the NFL, who would want to know, like, is my field growing properly? You could sell it to like European soccer for the same reasons. Like there's, those types of things. But then imagining like the additional layers of potential application for a product like this was really like, you could go in a spin about that, right? Obviously I have loads of plants back here. That's all agriculture related, but what if it were related to art? And, it could talk about how your artwork, like if you wanted to present a specific image or make a change that like it could talk to you about like the different things that are going on there. What if you could use a similar product in a machining situation where you have a warehouse line and you could identify, and then some of this may already exist, of course, but you could identify this machine isn't working as efficiently as possible because this little, this thing that we're viewing, like we know that this particular screw needs to be a little bit more tight or something, right? Like the application of an like a holistically viewing item like this, like endless possibilities of something like this. So I definitely wanted to talk about it because, again, it may not be the first version of this, but it's the first time I've read anything about something like this, and it just is a really, really, for me at least, it's a really cool product.
A lot of that comes back to what we talked about earlier this week on the practice playbook, like in the manufacturing space where you have your QA equipment that's checking for tolerances, and you want to check that and make sure that the product is within spec, and you want to know based on that machine, you can pretty much know you're going to be within 1% of your quantity
Right.
at the end. And if you have one machine that's kicking out 5%, well, that additional 4% is adding cost to your product. It's adding waste. It's adding all these other things to it. So having that information is super valuable.
Yeah, obviously. So again, it'll be interesting to see. Like again, I don't know that field view will be necessarily like applicable to a whole bunch of people, but some spin-offs with similar like diagnostics, like so just a diagnostic program of some sort, right? Can have
ag accounting is growing in the U.S. There is another player in that space. It's called Figured. It integrates with Xero. I know a lot of the ag accounting firms that I had some exposure to earlier in my career, in the last couple of years, are using that with Xero now. So yeah, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Competitive space for sure.
Right. And that is the tech news for this week. Next, we'll slide on into just regular, more broad e-commerce news. First, we talked about this in a previous episode, but it came back up again, and I wanted to highlight it once again. Used goods sellers are growing slightly faster than like the regular e-commerce market as a whole. And now that is maybe a very narrow approach because that's digital commerce 360's top 1,000. I don't know who all's included in there. And whether what if that's a very like narrow subset of total e-commerce or if that's more broad, but we mentioned this before where North Face, I think it was starting their like underlying line, right, of like, hey, gently used or whatever, but it's truly like a space that is clearly has a lot of growth opportunity. And so I definitely think that if you're an e-commerce business that has something that's reusable in that way and not just consumed, so a non-consumable e-commerce brand, like that's probably something that you want to explore because it's a second way to get sales on the same product, which seems pretty fantastic. So I think it's clearly a growing area. I think a lot of the people that I am around in my life, like you think about, you see in the news like thrifting and just having more secondhand stuff like that, wanting to use less, right, to just rein in some of that consumption mindset, and this is a good way to take advantage of it. So definitely, again, if this is a thing that if you have a reusable product like that, you should be considering this, I think.
That's good information there.
Yeah, right. eBay was doing a couple things on their website and their reporting. I guess my guess is maybe they partnered with somebody new to help you with some of their underlying data because they have a lot of areas in their reporting where they're providing more information. So eBay gets a lot of their ad revenue from either direct click or what they call halo clicks. So if you direct click and then there's like a spin-off product or a similar product, that kind of thing, those halo sales, like, we're still generating ad revenue for them. But it sounds like the reporting that you got didn't include that breakout. So you didn't know if that ad spend was getting a direct sale or a sideways sale. But now they've improved their reporting to add this breakout. They've also added some other reporting for traffic data and performance metrics just in general to their mobile app. So it sounds like just like everything else that we talk about on the show, eBay is trying to make their process as frictionless as possible. They're trying to make the user experience that much more improved. So be on the lookout for those changes at eBay. The next piece of news is really relevant, I think, to some of our conversation later, because AliExpress, who I believe is one of basically the Amazon of China, they are starting to offer some incentives to U.S.-based retailers to sell on their platform. And so I don't know how successful that's going to be based on some of the conversation that we'll have later today. But if you're looking to capture more of the global market, this may be the best time to get into China if you want that market, if you can support the demand that could potentially come from that market, if you think you'd be successful in that market, AliExpress is offering, the incentives that they're offering are there's a bunch of different ones that are all related to getting onto the platform, reducing some of the fees that you might have to pay, all that kind of stuff. So if that market's interesting to you, it's probably worth taking a look, because now it's like a discount, right? Like a sale. It's an AliExpress sale. Yay! It also appears to be a great time to be a payment platform, and I can't remember if we talked about this also on the Practice Playbook or if we talked about it here last week. But a couple different payment providers had some cool stuff happening this week. Melio, who is a payments platform, they raised another $150 million to continue to help to develop their product. You may recognize the name Melio if you're a QuickBooks user, because they are the people that are at least used to be, I don't know if they still are, but they used to be integrated right there in the platform for certain payment stuff. So that may be how they helped themselves, be attractive. But at the same time, I've heard good things about them. So if you already use them, look out for whatever comes out of that investment. So, and if you don't, it may be worth exploring. Also, Payoneer, who helps with payment processing and getting payments in, specifically like international ones, I believe. They've also had significant growth. They did a report of our earnings and just had gone from something like 20 million in revenue to 140 million or something like that. So just a huge growth. So good time to be in payment support. That's a pretty clear indicator of what we talk about here a lot, and that is that e-commerce is booming. It's time to be there, and if you're not there or not taking advantage, you're likely missing an opportunity. All the more reason to stay here on the e-commerce hour with Jay and I. Then we've got there was a lot of news. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things. First, Amazon Business. So Amazon Business is their B2B platform where you can buy stuff from business to business instead of their the main platform that you think about when you think about Amazon. But this is the same idea, business to business. But they are expanding Amazon Business into inventory management services as well. The way that it looked like, the way that they talked about this in the article that I read, they're calling it, even part of it, Amazon Business Restock, which to me very much screams of like the Granger model, where if you've got like a Kanban thing, the person comes in every couple of days, restocks, make sure you have all the different components that you need to make your product. And so Amazon is working to own more of that market. So if that's something that's you, that fits your business, that's definitely something to consider. They're also doing, or at least working on doing some the way that this article summarized this was like a vending machine style stuff. So you could get PPE out of a vending machine at your like warehouse location or whatnot. So if you've got if you've got some opportunity for this, right? If you've got a product that is consumable and reconsumable like that, the Amazon vending machines may be coming to a warehouse near you. So I thought that was interesting. Amazon, no surprise here. Amazon's in the news a lot. We talk about them a lot. There's more bigger Amazon news. Jay, I don't know if you saw this, but Amazon launched a virtual showroom for the holiday season. So you can go on Amazon and look around at like a house or a room that's got lots of different things on shelves, but it's virtual instead of like an actual, obviously like an actual space. And then they stepped that up a level just to get parents, especially parents of young kids like myself, I'm sure, like in a lot of trouble, because they added a virtual toy shop to let the kids go explore. So a fun and inventive way to do that type of marketing. It was interesting in the article that I read around this because Amazon a lot of times, especially Jay, I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of times when I go to Amazon, I'm explicitly trying to buy a thing. Mm-hmm. Right, I know exactly what I went for. I'm not going to like, let me find a new shirt for myself, or let me find a toy for my kid, or whatever it might be. But this is the article kind of interpreted this as Amazon's like testing the waters of what does it look like if people come to Amazon to search for something also,
Right.
which is like a different version of Amazon, right? And so historically, I don't know if you've had this experience, but historically, if you like search something on Amazon, it's just a hot mess. So it will
It's
be
all over the
interesting, I
place
think.
for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like taking that. It's like this year, I can't tell you how many shopping catalogs we've already received.
Oh, really?
Amazon, Walmart, Target, and
Yeah.
it's like it's taking that catalog to the next level. It's just
Truly.
you put your kid on an iPad, let them go loose and see what they want for the holidays, and next thing you know, they've clicked every one of those items, and it's in that
That's
shopping
right.
cart or suggested or in a list probably. I don't know how they're doing it, but that's for sure.
Right, and then changing the algorithm too, so that your ads show up to like highlight that more frequently.
Exactly.
So, and then the future application of this, now like Daniel Tiger in your child's like specific version of Daniel Tiger's show, like he's
Right.
now playing with that same toy, and you're like, what happened? How did this happen? How does Daniel Tiger even know what this is? I didn't know Elmo was in Daniel Tiger's world, like whatever it is, right? Like who knows how that's going to spread, but I'm sure that Amazon will find a way to make a lot of money off of it. That's my guess. The Amazon weren't the only ones, and we've talked about this already in lots of other areas, but they're not the only ones looking to improve customer experience. Lowe's is doing the same type of thing, where they're adding like a shopping experience a thing to their for home maintenance needs. So like some of their reward members can like log in and be able to either talk to someone. Most of it's going to be like appliance related support to start with, but it seems like it's going to be like a place you can go to get your like talk to all about your different house needs and how to make sure that you get it all from Lowe's, right? So certainly an interesting like the tailoring of the customer experience is really like going lots of places for a lot of people. And so as e-commerce businesses, you got to do the same thing, right? You can't be behind this. Finally, some of the biggest news, and especially if you are an Amazon seller, you may be included in this. Amazon got sued. Actually, once I read the article, I was like, oh, that's all? Like, it's only $30 million. So Amazon got sued for $30 million from a variety of Amazon sellers. Because of arbitrary suspensions of accounts, freezing of inventory, charging deactivated accounts for storage, limiting options to like recertification. And so if you have ever had one of these problems with Amazon, you're not alone. And you probably got a letter in the mail of like, have you, what are the like nighttime commercials about like talcum powder or whatever? You probably got like a little Amazon thing of, have you ever been charged for deactivated accounts for storage? Call, Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer, or whatever, right? But obviously, like Amazon's going to fight this, and but it's over the past 8 months was the exposure period for the folks in this lawsuit, so it's recent, and there were 596 Amazon sellers on there, so it's not small either. I mean, I'm not sure what you want the result to be, right? I think the answer is you want Amazon to not do those types of things. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you could have gotten into this situation as well. So be thoughtful about that, but also understand that this could potentially be a challenge that comes along with using Amazon as your fulfillment provider, or also as your main source of selling goods, your main marketplace. So be aware of that too, and know that that's happening.
And if you're selling on Amazon and you're experiencing this, let us know in the comments what's going on.
Right.
We want to know what Amazon is doing to its sellers in its marketplace, so that we can figure it out and share the word. Spread
That's
the word,
right.
and
Absolutely.
we can talk about it more and more. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to be alone in a situation like this, right? You want to understand there's other folks like you. So yeah. Share that with us. Let us hear about it. We'd love to talk about it more. Jay, we talked that it's only Thursday, so instead of Friday, but I went ahead and got an Oct We're getting to the tail end of my Oktoberfests here because I almost
say,
forgot I had
we're
this
in
one 'cause it's
November
in glass.
here. Come on.
But they bought them all before, and they are my
I
favorite.
I know
This
you're
one,
lobbying for year-round Oktoberfest, but it's just
know
not
the
going to
market.
happen.
Know the market. The beer providers need to know the market. This is from Allstat. It's here in Texas, and actually, Allstat. Big shout out to Allstat. 2 years ago, I learned that they made an Oktoberfest like this, and I was sad to find out that I was not in my local store. And so I actually tweeted at them of like, where can I find it again? I really enjoyed this one. I don't know even where to get it because I couldn't find it at the store that I went to. And they were like, they actually responded to me and were like, hey, here's our website where you can go find out where to go get this. So speaking of customer experience, Allstat on top of that. But now I can find it easier right there in the HEB. This is one of my favorite Oktoberfests, and so I saved it toward the end. And now it's almost already gone, and I'm kind of sad about it. When I finish that, I got a fun little one here called Ice Grip, which has this like cool fun art. The beers that I have always have this cool fun art. This one is from Jester King or from.
Gotta say, a lot of the cans that you display have some pretty interesting art on them.
I mean the eye catching.
Yeah,
I like
for sure.
you, so that it helps. It's a bit marketing. Am I right? That's how it works. No, when I see the like funky cans like this, like it's got a scorpion on there. Like I'm always interested in what's going on. This one is a cold IPA, which is a style that I'm not all that familiar with, but we're gonna find out in a minute here. And those are my drinks of choice. Jay, what's yours? Water.
I'm drinking
Coffee.
good old water. I am actually heading out right after this, so I did not want to have any alcoholic beverages. So
that's probably the right move.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we did it, Jay. We did it. We made it through an election season. That's a joke. It doesn't really quite go. It doesn't land the same way.
I will say, the last 2 days without commercials have been wonderful.
Yeah.
And I will say the last text I got was at the last election-related text was like 8 p.m. on Tuesday night. Still asking for money? Come on.
I'm not going to lie. While we were on this call, I got a 30330 text.
Really?
While we were recording, so who knows what it is? I don't ever read them anymore because I know who they are and know my $47 or whatever is not. It's not going that far, not anymore. Sure, don't believe it. So who knows? Whatever. But that there's a lot of conversation too about how far that did go, because the incumbent party, the Democratic Party, they got pretty wrecked. It's like a 6-point shift in states that weren't highly contested, but only a 3-point shift in those that were. So the ground game made up some ground, but needed to make up maybe double to actually have some success. But there's it's a anti-establishment thing in a lot of spots. But interestingly, the Senate races were all significantly closer or turned out the opposite way in these swing states. And then the House is yet to be decided. So there could be slightly different outcomes. I think the expectation is that the Republican Party is going to go clean sweep here, but we won't know that for a while because California takes a little while to get all their votes because they can, like we talked about last week, you can mail it in at the last minute, and that's okay. So we'll get those results, and we'll know how likely some of the things that we're talking about today are to happen. But I started this off with Trumpity Trump as our title here because we've heard a lot of the talking points, right? We haven't really talked about it here on the show because there was just so much uncertainty. But now there's not. Now there's not that much uncertainty anymore, and
but
so
there's still uncertainty. Before we jump into those other things you were going to talk about, there is uncertainty. Let's go back to the TikTok conversation.
let's go back to the TikTok conversation.
Yes.
Talk to me, Jay.
So
you've captured my attention.
the TikTok ban conversation started
Ooh,
during the Trump administration in 2020. He vowed
that's a long time ago.
to ban TikTok.
Ooh.
And I wasn't even thinking about that because just this week I saw that the ban date, the date that the ban goes into effect if there is no sale is January 19th.
Ooh. Spicy.
Yes. And going back a few months, the president-elect said that he would not ban TikTok. So a little flippy flop there, but not a big deal. There's been a lot of people flipping back and forth on the whole TikTok thing. And honestly, I am not worried about the Chinese getting the data. I mean, really, come on. What are they going to get?
They have it already.
Favorite dances? I mean, really.
Right.
But what's going to happen? That's what I want to know because it goes into effect the day before Inauguration Day.
Fascinating.
So it's a little bit of intrigue. We got to see what happens. But, we shall see.
We will.
Well, will the deal to get
uncertainty.
Microsoft to purchase it again resurrect? We don't know. We shall see.
I don't know.
So
And maybe it will be Amazon. Maybe Amazon will do it.
Yeah. Well,
Who knows? We'll find out. So yes, even more uncertainty, as if it isn't uncertain enough what's going to happen.
exactly.
There's just more stuff that's uncertain. Well, one of the things that I think is definitely going to happen in some way is that the Trump administration, the Republican administration that gets in, they're gonna do some damage or do some changing to the tariff policy. And the tariff, man, that's a weird sounding word. Like, what does it even mean? And that's what we're here for. Let's talk about tariffs, Jay. I'm going to tell you what I think a tariff is, and I'm going to let you tell me whether I'm right or wrong. So when goods are imported to the United States, that does not come free, right? The United States wants you to pay for that opportunity. It's effectively like a merchandise tax, effectively like a VAT, a sales tax, effectively kind of to get it into a duty almost, even really like to get it into the country. And so in doing so, if your goods have come from China, from Mexico, from wherever they may come from, you're going to have to pay a little more. And that payment that you make is going to go to the U.S. government as a tax. That those tariffs are different for every country. They're related to trade negotiations that have happened. There's all kinds of different ways that they can be enforced and that they can be executed. And in some cases that they can be circumvented. So that makes for lots of shenanigans, I'm not going to lie. And maybe those shenanigans make this not that big of a deal. But Jay, did I explain tariffs in the right way? Is that what a tariff is?
Pretty much, yeah, for sure. And
Fantastic.
The way that I would go about this and how it impacts the e-commerce seller is, where are you buying most of your products today? Mm-hmm. I would say you're importing them from China. And
probably.
The impact of the tariffs, the lower level tariffs is about 10%. And I think, like Chris said, they're looking at up to 60% tariff on items from China. So think about that iPhone that you were about to purchase, and it's $1,000. Well, if there is a 60% tariff on that iPhone, it's going to cost $1,600. Not $1,000, that's $600 more. And it's not the Chinese government that pays that tariff. It's Apple that pays that tariff. And if Apple is paying an additional $600 on that iPhone, now, let's face it, that iPhone doesn't cost Apple $1,000. It probably costs them $150.
No chance. Yep.
But you're going to pay $1,600 because that's what that tariff. I mean, 60% is probably $60 on that 100, but they're going to mark up a price on that as well. So
that's right.
It's not truly a tax, but it is a cost paid by the consumer. So I think that this this idea is going to get floated. I don't think it's going to stand water. I don't think the Senate or the House is going to pass this. If there's anybody with any finance background, it will not happen. But then again, they did pass the PPP and the EIDL, so there's no telling. But we shall see.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think that the couple critical takeaways too, right, is that what that means for you as a business owner, even if it doesn't happen to the full extent, there's going to be some policy around this. I think that happened during the previous Trump administration, but and so like there's going to be some change here. And so what that means for you is understand where your product is coming from and understand what tariffs you're paying currently and what kind of exposure you have to this. One other thing, and it's one that we talked about last week, is a lot of consumers or a lot of companies were considering bringing their production stateside. Now, a 60% tariff makes that a lot more appealing if the previous one was 5 or 10. Most goods have tariffs already. It's not like this is a brand new policy. It's just increasing the rate of that tariff. And so it's something to definitely be thoughtful about and to be aware of. So one of the other things, and when I mentioned AliExpress, one of the other things that often happens in an increasing tariff situation is that if you increase the tariff on goods coming from China is not, they don't appreciate that typically because that impacts their economy as well, right? Because people are less likely to buy the good from China because it's more expensive now. And so because of that, China's like, well, now when you, United States, want to send goods here to China, well, now we're going to impose that same tariff on you or a similar tariff. And again, that may not cost the U.S. shipper that much more, right? Because they're not the ones that are paying it. But at the same time, now that person on the Chinese side is just less likely to buy your product because they have to now pay a higher tariff. Yep. And so potential retaliation of this nature is on outbound shipping or outbound product movement is like gonna happen probably. So be aware of that as well. And so before you go take advantage of all the AliExpress incentives here, like understand like might get a little, your market share might dwindle just a pinch because of a 60% tariff the other way.
Yeah, you might get one less free item from Temu that way too.
That's right. That's true. Yeah, or Sheen or whatever, right?
Right.
Could be.
Yeah.
It's too funny. The other thing that, and I mentioned this in just kind of in passing, but the other thing that has happened too is that there are a wide variety of ways that companies that may be doing even manufacturing in China originally, they've started to open facilities in countries that are close by China, but have less restrictive, less punitive tariffs. And so what you'll see, I think, is that there's going to be a small shift in where those goods come from. And so be aware of that as well, as if your supplier is a Chinese company, they may also have a facility somewhere else that can get those goods to you with a little less payment out of your pocket potentially. So explore that, be aware of that, understand kind of what your situation is there. I think that's the best advice we could possibly give you related to this. On the personal side, so for the business owner themselves, there are some potential pretty significant impacts as well. These are related to literal taxes, not tariffs, which aren't.
I gotta say though, Chris, I'm looking at the show notes here, and that looks awful familiar. Yeah,
I might have stolen that from you. This might be the exact same list that you sent to me earlier today.
Actually, this came Wednesday morning. Right after they declared the winner. Yeah. And basically, I took this long article, copied it, ran it through ChatGPT, said, "Give me the highlights." Here we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so the highlights include, these are tax-related highlights, and again, mostly for individuals, but some of this will impact businesses for sure. In fact, the first one of these is probably the one that impacts businesses the most, and that's the one that we've talked about, right? The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, that was sometimes negatively referred to as the Trump tax cut, sometimes positively referred to as the Trump tax cut. But that's what this was the legislation that reduced the corporate tax rate from something like 30-something% to to 21. Is that where we are now?
21.5%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a graduated tax, and now it's just a flat 21.5%. Now,
Yeah.
some of the impacts of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act were made permanent. That was the business side. The personal side, they were all set to sunset at the end of 2025. And that was what we've been waiting on, the extenders and some changes that were sitting in the Senate as early as January of this year. So I believe, the Trump administration will extend this. Now, will they extend it past 4 years? Or have whoever comes in next have to deal with it again? Because,
We'll find out.
And because that's how this was laid out. He planned on having a 2-term presidency, and then a year later, when the new president came in, they'd have to deal with it. So in this case, let's see what happens. But they're talking about extending most of these cuts. So
right.
Overall, it's a good thing. We just got to find a way to pay for it.
I think there's also been some talk, Jay, too, and I don't know whether or how likely this is, but some talk of reducing the corporate tax rate even further, so even down a little bit below 21%. So just keep an ear out for that as well. The biggest impact of that, of course, is in your business structuring, because if you are a pass-through entity where you get a K-1 and your income goes directly to you as an individual, that doesn't matter because you're being taxed as though this is ordinary income, right, Jay?
Yep.
To you as a person.
Right.
However, if you are structured as a C Corp, the 21% tax rate, that's the one that applies to those types of entities. So if there is continued push to reduce the corporate tax rate even further, there may be an additional evaluation that you need to do on your structuring, because the lower that number gets, the more appealing the C Corp status probably is.
But then again, are they going to look at
right.
the Section 199A or the qualified business deduction, where we get a 20% deduction on the personal taxes to help bring that tax rate to that 21.5%? So are they going to revisit that and maybe make it a 25% deduction? We don't know. So there are different factors that are in play there. And once we find that out, I think it's important to talk to a tax strategist like me to figure that out and run scenarios, because you can't just say blanketly, oh, it's better to be a C Corp. There are many different scenarios, and until you pull in your personal tax structure, your personal tax situation, you can't make that decision. So anybody that gives you a blanket, you got to do this is completely wrong, because it is tailored to you and your tax situation.
And that's how you can tell that Jay is a tax professional, and that's not my background. So again, if you're making those types of decisions,
check out my video on TikTok telling you to get a G-Wagon. Other than that,
ooh, that's a good one.
Joke.
That's a good one. An important piece of important thing to do. So all that to say, right? Understand that some of the impacts from TCJA are almost certain to be extended in some way or another, and the corporate tax rate is much more likely to go down than to go up, which may have an impact on the way that your business is structured. But don't just listen to me. Take your tax advisor's word for it, and make sure that they're not just telling you, oh yeah, definitely. They are thinking about your specific situation. There are a few other things that are, again, not all that impactful to business owners directly as business owners, but can be very helpful to business owners as on their personal taxes. That's a potential increase or reconsideration of the SALT deduction, so your state and local tax deduction. I actually just saw that there are several counties around the United States who pay a median property tax rate of $10,000 or more a year, and I had the unfortunate situation of being in one of the highest. They went from like light red to dark blue. Dark blue being the highest median rates, and I was in one of the dark blue counties in Texas. So I was like, well, that's a bummer. Um, but this would be very valuable for me, although not in the capacity of an e-commerce business owner, but just as a general taxpayer. Similarly, I think there's some conversation around what to do about the child tax credit, and specifically whether or not it's going to be a refundable credit or just a credit. And so again, that impacts you as a person, not in the same way as it would from a business perspective. However, there, especially if you're creating a product, and Jay, you can talk more about this because I don't want to blow it, but there is definitely a plan to restore the Section 174 deduction, which doesn't mean anything unless you understand that that's the R&D expenditure deduction. And so they're looking to bring that back. Is that right, Jay?
So a couple years ago, they put a change through where we had to capitalize R&D cost. And basically, what capitalizing means, you're not expensing it, you're putting it on the balance sheet and carrying it over time. And
Right.
you would record it as an intangible asset. And then you also have to, and they use this term bifurcate, you have to bifurcate it and split out the foreign spent R&D and the domestic spent. And you could then amortize the domestic R&D expense over 5 years, but 15 years on the foreign.
On the foreign.
And
Yeah.
more often than not, you're paying more in foreign because you're using, tech in other parts of the
Right.
world.
That's right.
And usually those dollars are higher, so you're getting less benefit on your P&L for that.
Right.
And as such, it's also been a huge drain to make those changes come tax time because most companies are still expensing it. We're now going through it and capturing what the nature of it is, and then capitalizing it and then categorizing it or bifurcating it, as they say. So
Right.
basically, they're going to do away with that, leave it on the income statement, and then pull your credits out. It's really important. Get your R&D tax credit studies done properly, and it's worth having that conversation if you're doing anything with any aspect of R&D in your business. Even if you're writing software for your e-commerce business to make it more efficient, it might be an R&D expense. So just throw that out there.
Yeah, and so I think that that's an important thing to think about. Is just because you are a business that is selling a good that you've been selling for years now, there are opportunities to still get these R&D tax credits. So be thoughtful about it and understand what that exposure is. Like, understand where your chance is to take advantage. Because if you can, you should. And especially if you're doing something like Jay's talking about, redesigning website, or maybe spending some money on a new AI tool. Who knows what that might be, right? But there are definitely some spaces where we talked about different areas where you can touch on just where this might be a possibility for you. So explore that, be aware of it, be thoughtful about it. There are a lot of other, and some of these were like particularly newsworthy tax cuts. I don't know again how impactful they'll be to e-commerce business owners, but if you're in an e-commerce business where you're allocated tips, maybe you'll get some nice savings there if they do eliminate taxes on tips. That seems really unlikely. I think that was just some posturing.
Honestly, I think most of these were pandering to the audience.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But there has been some traction on the no tax on tip side, because you think about servers and restaurants, they're more on the lower income side. Now,
Sure.
I have heard a effort to put a wage limit on that. So they'd have to earn less than X dollars, and then the tips
Sure.
would not be taxable, which makes sense. But,
Yeah.
and also Social Security benefits,
Yeah.
I could see that. But overtime,
Seems impossible.
it's not possible. You're going to make a logistical bookkeeping nightmare if you do that.
Yeah.
So that's going to make it very difficult. And first responders, they're going into burning buildings or getting shot at. Maybe they should get a break on their taxes. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Maybe we should include teachers in here, since they're going into burning buildings and getting shot at too. That's a really, really bad joke. Yeah. Yikes. So there's also some talk about introducing a tax credit for family caregivers, or allowing interest write-offs for U.S.-made car purchases. Right. Again, I think a lot of the tax policy is focused on bringing production back to the United States and trying to incentivize that in a wide variety of ways. And there's pros and cons to that, right? Like, there's a reason why it's cheaper in the rest of the world. It's expensive to live here in the United States, and so who knows? Like, there's a lot. We'll see what happens. We'll see what actually happens. Obviously, these things, like Jay, like you mentioned, are pretty expensive, right? Anytime you're giving tax cuts, that means you're either cutting a service potentially, or you're going to have to make that up with income from somewhere else. And so obviously we talked about tariffs, and so there's talk about the tariffs, offsetting these costs. So that doesn't seem very likely to me, but I guess we'll see. Jay, I thought a lot about one of the big talking points is related to immigration and illegal immigration and that kind of thing. Like, I don't. Obviously, you could have impacts to your team potentially if you if their family or themselves get wrapped up in whatever ends up happening there. Like, I don't. I guess those types of things are all just going to be uncertain, I think, until we really get real policies and they have time to understand how they're going to be executed. So I know that there are lots of other things that were part of the conversation around the election. Jay, was there anything else that is particularly important to?
There was one other newsworthy thing that I thought that would bring up here as well.
Yeah, sure.
But looking at the enemies from within list that Trump has, what agency in the U.S. government do you think Trump would target first?
I don't even want to guess because for lots of reasons.
You know what it is? We've been talking about it the last 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, the IRS.
Yeah.
80,000 agents are out of here.
They're already talking about cutting the $80 million in extra funding. So that's a problem for me, because I need them to get that tech investment moving and get that technology up. I mean, we got to keep them developing and getting in the right mindset and having the tools and giving us the tools. I will say, it's worth $80 million to have a portal where we can see our clients' tax accounts and have this detail. And hey, I even uploaded a document and got a tax case closed. I didn't have to fax it. I was able to upload it right online. So let's keep this investment, Mr. Trump. Let's keep it, please.
I think that's a really interesting way to think about it too. Like, there's a lot of things to think about this way. We just talked about how Lowe's, how Amazon, how eBay, how they're all looking to improve customer experience. That should be the case here too, right? Like, that's what we're talking about, is improving customer experience and investing in technology. And I think that those things are just as important, if not more so, in the federal government, just like you're talking about, because of all the tariffs and tax dollars that are going to be collected, they go somewhere, they are expended. And when they're expended, that's a lot of expenditure. There's just the loads and loads and loads of that. And so we should make that process efficient, and we should try to highlight the ways for that technology to improve it, because the technology exists. You can see all of the people every time we talk about the news. You can see all of the investments in AI, all the investments in infrastructure that way.
Oh, for sure.
The federal government shouldn't be any different. At least that's my opinion. So I guess we'll see if it is also the new administration's. So
But
So we'll see.
Mr. Trump, we are begging you, keep that investment in the IRS. As a tax professional and as a taxpayer, we need these tools to make this work. Because 2 hours on a phone and getting disconnected after 120 minutes is not fun. We want to get these things resolved, which means more money in the treasury to help pay for some of these cuts. So let's go. That's all I'm saying.
Let's go. Cut that and put it on TikTok. Let's get that viral. Absolutely. All right. So, was there anything else that has come to mind, or that's like top of mind?
No, that's
All right.
that's it. Well, and just now, I think we're done with this. I just want to come back and bring this full circle to the beer. So I don't know if you heard, but Dale Jr. will be driving the Bud car again.
Wait, what?
Wait, what? Yes.
What?
The Bud car.
It's coming back?
He signed a deal 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and just popped into my head while we were talking about great cans. So he had got the trademark of his number 8, which he got the trademark of the number 8 from Dale Earnhardt's widow. That is the car that he drove at Dale Earnhardt Inc. The original DEI. I'm just going to state that right now, because when people mention DEI, I'm thinking Dale Earnhardt Inc. baby. So basically, he's come back and he runs. Well, he's a part owner in the Cars Tour, and he runs a number of races. Well, between I think it's right before or after Thanksgiving, he's running a race in Florence, South Carolina, with the Bud colors, and then any race he runs, I believe, in 2025 will be with the Bud number 8 as well. So exciting times.
That's super exciting. Although it does bring to mind a significant question for me. Like, has what happened? Why does Dale need more money? I felt like he was good to go. Like,
it's not about the money. I mean,
no, he just ready to.
It's about the beer.
Oh, there you go. He needed some Budweiser.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever hear the stories about his youth when he was breaking into racing and Bud was his sponsor, I mean, they would drop off truckloads of beer.
Wow.
And if he won and had a party, they were on call to come mid-party and bring more beer. Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Is it championship weekend, Jay?
It is championship weekend. And I am depressed because I am not in Phoenix.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, this is my first time in 3 years not being at the championship weekend. I've been at 4 races in a row in Phoenix, and this is my first one I'm missing.
Wow, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I am looking forward to this weekend, and I think I might have told you this, but we almost came to blows last Friday night on the truck race.
Oh, I
we
thought
did
you were
have
talking about
a
you and me.
slap
I was
to
like,
the face.
Jay, I don't remember that. That's not the way I remember our conversation from Friday.
How was it?
No. I was meaning you said we came to blows. So I thought you were talking about you and me, and I was like,
no, I said it almost came to blows, not us.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday night in the Xfinity race, there was a punch.
The slap.
Cole
right?
Custer was slapped in the face. Yeah, open hand slap, and he was on Junior's show this week, and he did have a black eye.
Wow. Yeah. All right. That's
and
a serious slap.
Then in the Cup Series, we had shenanigans going on. We like using that word, shenanigans. There was $400,000 in penalties assessed, and a shit ton of points. So
shitting.
Yeah, shitting. Yes, and a points position could be worth $200,000. So
Wow,
getting that many points could lose a shitting of money as well. And there were 9 crew chiefs, spotters, etc., that were suspended for championship weekend. So there are new faces in the garage. It's going to be an interesting weekend. It's going to be a great weekend for NASCAR.
Let's go.
That's what my weekend's going to be all about. And we'll talk about it more next week.
Yeah, we have a cul-de-sac get together this weekend, which I'm pretty hyped for. So I'm looking forward to that. I wish it were tonight instead of Saturday morning or whenever it is. But at the same time, like whatever, Saturday morning will be great. It's always fun to meet your neighbors.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what I tell everyone to do. Like if you live near a cul-de-sac, go find get your neighbors out in the cul-de-sac. Go have a sit sesh. Learn a little bit about what people got going on.
Get the families out there on a Friday night. Break open some beers
right.
and order some pizza, man. Get everybody together.
Right. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's the America we know and love.
There you go.
So let's do it. All right. Wonderful, Jay. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with us. If you have questions about tariffs, taxes, other stuff that you read about this new administration, drop those in the comments. Jay and I'll talk about anything. We love the feedback. We really,
won't talk
really
about anything, but
we'll talk about a lot of things. Most
Yes.
things related to e-commerce. We'll talk about anything related to e-commerce. That feels
there
right.
you go. Perfect.
So
All right, everybody.
So hit us up.
Have a great weekend. We will see you next week.